couple of years ago, I wrote a column saying that we probably shouldn't hang the whole success of the Royal Commission into Institutional Sex Abuse on the prosecution of George Pell, which a lot of people kind of seem to be doing. Not formally or officially, but they seem to think, right, we've had the Royal Commission and we're going to get George Pell, and that's what it's for. And then once we've got him, we've solved the problem and we'll have wiped out pedophilia in the Catholic Church in Australia. And I know it wasn't as simple as that, but that was certainly where all the sort of coverage, all the emotion, all the outrage, and all the fury seemed to be. And I wrote this piece for news.com.au saying, look, hang on, we really shouldn't be linking these two things that closely. Really, we should be thinking about all the victims of child sex abuse in the church and other institutions and making sure that they get justice and they get restitution and that they are taken care of, and making them the focus instead of punishing this kind of boogeyman, if you like, this kind of rogue crime. Because firstly, if George Pell gets convicted, then we don't want to think, oh, well, that's it. The problem's been solved. We don't have to do anything more. It's done and dusted. And then, of course, if we gets off, we don't want to think, well, that was all for nothing, or that because he's not guilty, that other complainants aren't totally legitimate. And of course, as often happens when I say something that I think is quite sensible, there was just howls and howls of outrage. People saying there was no way Pell would ever be acquitted. People were even giving me like percentages. They'd calculated percentages of his chance of being acquitted. And of course, we all know what happened. The full bench of the High Court emphatically, and categorically, and unanimously acquitted him. And meanwhile, you had all these issues where there were institutions refusing to sign up to the compensation scheme. All of this was being swept under the carpet. All of this was going under the radar because all the newspaper coverage, all the media coverage, all the outrage by the activist group was all centered around George Pell. And I wondered to myself over the last couple of weeks if we're not making the exact same mistake again with Christian Porter and confusing the allegations against him, again, historical sex abuse allegations against a single person, which he vehemently denies and is now suing the bejesus out of the ABC for, and confusing that for this other issue of the mistreatment of women in Parliament, sexual harassment and abuse of women in Parliament House, staffers in particular, but just the treatment of women generally in politics. And yet again, we've kind of got this island of Dr. Moreau thing where we've stuck two things together, which I don't think necessarily belong. And also we're hanging the worthiness, if you like, of this cause on the attempted crucifixion of this one guy, or the prosecution of this one guy, depending on whose side you're on. And I don't think it is by any means a sure thing that Christian Porter will be found in any sort of court or inquiry or coronial inquest that's assembled. It is by no means a sure thing that he will be found to have had any culpability. And there's every chance that he may be, I suppose, vindicated and have his version of events upheld. He certainly is very emphatic in saying that his versions of events are absolutely correct, and what his accuser, who is now dead, sadly, tragically, at her own hand, and cannot even testify. And so again, why are we focusing on that and the downfall or not of this one man when we could be focusing on the treatment of women altogether in general? And I think that's what was a really good point of the march that went to Canberra and other cities this week. But again, the Prime Minister offered the organisers, the leaders of these rallies, to meet with him, and they said no. And I don't understand, if you were genuinely trying to get a practical, tangible, real solution to these problems that would save lives, make women safer, why wouldn't you meet with the most powerful person in the country and say, right, this is our goal and this is what we think you need to do to help us get to it? But instead, there was this kind of brinkmanship of saying, no, well, first they said, oh, yes, we will meet with you. Then they said, oh, no, we're not. You have to come to us. For what purpose, I'm not sure, to come outside and have a conversation with 5,000 or 10,000 people. I don't know how that's going to work, how you're going to get a strategy out of that, a plan out of that. So again, you've got this opportunity that was offered and completely lost, squandered, because there was more will for confrontation than there was actual cooperation and trying to find a way forward. And again, so the next day, both parties could have come out and said, right, here's our plan to end violence against women, or to stop these sorts of behaviours in Parliament House or in the government or in the community generally. And instead, you got all this Twitter outrage about Scott Morrison saying, oh, well, it's nice they're able to peaceful protest. The most boring statement in the world. It's not exactly insightful or profound, I'll grant you. But the idea that that is what you're going to, that's the wash up of this mass march around the country, that everyone's getting upset on Twitter because Scott Morrison said, isn't it great you can protest peacefully in Australia? So my piece this week is all about, why don't we actually focus on things we can do, how we can do them, and the people we're trying to do them for, instead of just trying to find someone that we hate, find someone you don't like, and just trying to tear them down and think, oh, that's the job's done. I'm the champion of progress. I've killed that guy. I've killed that guy. They're the bad guys. They're dead. Now everything's fine. Let's go have a party. How about we focus on the people we're trying to help instead of the people we're trying to hurt?